Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Preacher Moss. I'm the host of the ShOUT Show. Please allow me to welcome you to the show. If it's your first time, thank you for coming. And if you're a regular member, if you've been here before, welcome back. I hope everybody's doing well on this Thursday. I want to apologize. I rushed to the weekend and yesterday's telecast that I told everybody I have a great Friday, have a weekend. There's a lot of things I'd like to change in the world. A lot of things I can't change in the world. One of them is the ordering of the days of the week. I yesterday put up a program called Muslims in Blackface. And I got some really, really good responses from people, some very interesting responses from people, and I appreciate the support. It was something that had been on my spirit, and I think sometimes as you watch things develop, sometimes you can become selfish with information. One of the things that drove me as a young Muslim back in the day, before I was actually Muslim, if you will, but a core understanding of my blackness, a core understanding of where I could be in the world, it did not come from Sunni Islam. Let's just really state that. Sunni Islam came later to the party, but I was inspired largely by the Nation of Islam. And summarily after that, the leadership of Imam Wafdi Muhammad. And I still have great relationships with people in the nation. That's not my point. Give a salam, Sister Yasmin. Thank you for coming all the way from the UK. Bless you, sister. Thank you. And here's the star of the show, Mary Moss. Love you, Mom. My mom can actually talk to this point. I wish I had her on as a guest. You know, Elijah Muhammad wrote a book. And it was a famous book. It does get lost in the vernacular of the youth these days and leadership these days because it wasn't a popular book. It was popular for Black people who were really fighting to be conscious. And at that point in time, with the advent, if you will, of the civil rights movement, there was a competition there. But this competition was different because this competition framed Black life without the involvement, without the permission, without the necessity of approval of white society. That was the difference between civil rights movement and the Nation of Islam, per se. Nation of Islam framed a lot of things on what a family could be, and essentially, the Nation of Islam was a female movement. A lot of people don't know that. It was a very female-led movement when Elijah Muhammad was incarcerated. It was his wife, Sister Claire Muhammad, that led the march. Thus, the book I'm going to talk to you about is a book called Message to the Black Man. I find this a timely book because something that I am seeing, I'm not saying it's disturbing, but I think it needs context. There is a rush now to, in many regards, it's a rush now to Black pain and Black tragedy. When I say rush to Black pain and Black tragedy, it is the thing that is commensurate when we see disasters happen overseas. We're compelled with an emotional response. We want to give money. We want to give attention. And what I've seen is, you know, everybody wants the Black person now. We're talking about race, we need a Black person. And realistically, if you're going to talk about race in a realistic way, you don't need me there. You need your conscience. You need your integrity. And in many regards, when I think about this book, Message to the Black Man, I think Black man throws a lot of people off because they think that it's just the Black individual. And it's not the Black individual. That book is relevant now. if you take out some of the theological stuff, it's relevant now because now, as I say, Message to the Black Man, I'm talking about an international entity. Back when Message to the Black Man was originally written, it was for the American so-called Negro and the Black Muslim. But now you have a thing where the idea of blackness and black culture has permeated every level of culture throughout the United States. Music, film. There's not a part of culture that hasn't been touched by black intelligentsia, black creativity, creative image, and of course, black spirituality. I think this is a very important point because as I began to reread Message of the Black Man, you know what was interesting? You can't get 20 pages into Message of a Black Man without Elijah Muhammad talking about police brutality, saying that he's had to endure over 24 years of police brutality. This is not in 2020 or 2015 or anything like that. There was no Black Lives Matter. It meant that it was no Black Lives Matter. It was Black existence now. They asked for it now. They fought for it now. There was no slogans back then. There was no social media. And I say this because we have to be extremely careful of this whole thing of it's like an intoxication. It's like intoxication, if you will. And I don't mean alcohol or drugs, but latching on to people's pain, latching on, growing it more than it is, in some regards, promoting it, just being close to that kind of attention is intoxicating. It leads to, I think, in some regards, it's like it has components of addictive behavior. Because you have a situation of a lot of African Americans who've been frustrated for so many years. Nobody's heard them. Nobody's talked to them. Nobody's respected us. All these things. And then just like a quick pivot, almost like COVID, you're at the center of attention. And what I find is people are not able to process that kind of attention. It becomes a copycat situation, a copycat scenario. The title of this program, of course, was Message to the Black Man and Those Who Claim to Love Black Folk. You know, and I say love Black folk, not have an affinity for, but love. Love requires sacrifice and investigation. It requires a different type of engagement. You see, the Black spirit here in the United States is something that a lot of people don't understand. And I talk about people coming to this country. It's almost a metaphor. I was talking to my friend Danish. I said, for my immigrant brothers and sisters, not just Muslim, but they come to the United States, and they don't understand that there's a movie going on between the black struggle and white supremacy. Black struggle and white supremacy. And the interesting part is, you see, like all the immigrants come in during the middle of the movie, and when they ask, "Hey, what did I miss?" they go to the white person. They go to white supremacy to get the details of what did I miss. And you never get the nuance. You never get the nuance. Nobody goes to the Black person and says, "Hey, why are you in the back of the movie when everyone else is in the front of the movie? Why are you in the balcony?" Because people don't want to answer those questions. You see, Message to the Black Man is interesting because I said the Black entity, the Black identity, and the Black purpose is international. People judge societies upon the treatment of African Americans. Thus, George Floyd's murder resonates around the world because all kind of people are looking for justice now. All kind of people see an opportunity, a beacon of hope to find some kind of justice or some kind of satisfaction. It is 100% intoxicating to be able to have your oppressor stand in front of you, in front of a bunch of other people, and admit in some mode or some small fashion that they were wrong, that they did you dirty, that their behavior was incorrect. Like in Minneapolis, we clamored for people to be arrested, recharged, and all this type of stuff. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, are we engaging the wrong things? I watched the eulogy today, George Floyd's eulogy. They're going to have 3 funerals for George Floyd. 3 of them. Count them. Houston will be the last one. I watched Reverend Al Sharpton, and I will rarely ever say this. He gave a eulogy for George Floyd, and he looked tired. He looked tired. I don't mean like he was huffing and puffing like he might have had COVID, but he's a guy who's been through the ringer so many times. He looked tired. You know why? Because the words he was saying, the rapidity of actual actions, events that are coming. I'm talking Ahmaud Arbery. I'm talking Eric Garner. I'm talking about the just the rapid rate that these things happen. They kill the soul. There's nothing worse than having to go to a funeral where a minister has to go, this can't happen again. And our Black community, I'm going to take you to task and myself to task, whereby we can't allow everybody in to celebrate and share our pain. We need, in many regards, to sit down and have a conversation. We have to close the doors and the windows and pull the shades in our house and talking about how do we develop situations and scenarios whereby we can be better. Number one, how can we be better? And two, how can we begin to problem solve? Too often, I feel like we celebrate the death being, and we put our rage out there, but that's it. Rage won't get you results. My message to the Black man is, number one, as an international entity, you're going to have to leave the United States. I ain't talking about moving, but I'm like, you have to get out of your little areas and go conversate with people who are like-minded, where maybe white supremacy isn't as deep as it is here, but they're people who have at least fought the power. That's number one. Number two is understand that aspect of oppression. Understand the aspect of oppression. See, an oppressor is going to recognize you in one or two situations. Number one, when they can oppress you, or number two, when they're caught in a scenario whereby they can't oppress you the way they want to right then and there. It's sort of like COVID, the COVID virus. I call it probably one of the most smartest viruses in the world because it has human beings tricked. Because we think that if we have our immune system up and strong, that COVID won't attack us. It'll attack you, but the problem is it won't be successful. The problem is we're thinking it'll attack one time. No, it will come back. Sure as my name is Preacher Moss, sadly, we will be dealing with this situation and scenario another time. My forecast is we won't have the same outpouring. You know why? Because people are tired. People are tired. When you look in the Muslim community now, let's just be honest, the African American Muslim community is overlooked as a part of the community in a lot of regards. People pick and choose who's going to be on live streams and stuff like that. What was really, really interesting is now everybody wants to do a live stream to talk about our trauma, to talk about our pain. Why are we not having live streams to talk about our victories? Why are we not having live streams to talk about our successes? We know about trauma. Talk about our successes. Look at the dialogue that I'm presenting here. Talking about success, talking about winning. There's a lot of victories that we're overlooking because the money, if you will, is for that Black trauma. The money, if you will, is for sad faces. The money, if you will, is for low singing and heads hung low. And there's a time and a place for that. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and a place for that. But right now, it's just playing out in front of us. Everybody is in front of the microphone. The worst funeral you ever going to go to is when they say, we're going to have people come on up and say a few short words. You might be there till the next day with people trying to say a few short words. Why? And Reverend Al Sharpton said this. He said, because in a situation when your heart is not totally bound to the idea and the integrity and the spirit of a situation, you can mess around and have competition. Right now, we have competition. Competition has nothing to do with the murder of George Floyd. jostling for the microphone has nothing to do with the murder of George Floyd. What we have, again, is a situation and scenario where people are in tune in some regards, are drawn into or share addictive behaviors. We want the oppressor to recognize our pain. Well, I got news for you. He'll recognize it and he'll probably give you some more. That's what oppressors do. Now, not to be funny, because I have stories of people who were not George Floyd. There are people who were not killed by the police, but their spirits were taken. They're walking around. They're like human zombies. They can't connect with humanity again for what was done to them. And there are countless others who have gone through difficult situations. The African American spirit, though, can't be a thing that can be, for lack of a better word, it can't be a thing that can be sliced and diced, put on a website, put on Instagram. That's not our spirit. That's not the idea of the people. It's spontaneous. It's voluminous. It can't be framed. It can't be branded. And that is the spirit. You see, right now, we put it in this dialogue of, you did me wrong. He did me wrong. All I want you to do is just admit you did me wrong. That's a mistake. That's a tactical mistake. In religion, when somebody does you wrong, there's the idea that, okay, I did wrong. I repent to God. That's one section of it. The other section of it is of redemption, of repentance is redemption, which means you have to go, brothers and sisters, and to the person that you harmed, to the person that you did wrong, you need to tell that person, I'm sorry. How can I make you whole? That is the bottom. That is the core understanding. When you're talking about trauma, if you're going to get to that point, that's where we're supposed to be. At this point in time, I feel personally myself, and I could be wrong, that this pageantry with this trauma, we celebrate it, making sure we're in the right seat, we're in the right place, and the camera's over here. I worry. I 100% worry, because if this continues, this will be a loss. Let me tell you why I think it'll be a loss. It'll be a loss because you're going to have a scenario whereby people are going to say, hey, you had your shot. I gave you your shot. You didn't do it. It's almost like the NFL explaining injuries to their players. It's an interesting thing. Players, if you will, in the NFL are asked to do horrific things with their bodies. The trade-off with the NFL is, well, you didn't have to do it, but you took a chance. You wanted the money. Here's the thing. Oh, you wanted the money. Here's the thing. You did it. It didn't work out for you. Not my fault. You had your chance. I afforded you an opportunity. Move on. It's becoming that way lately. And when I say lately, so you got to flip over to the other side now, because everything has a balance to it. Let's flip that pain and misery over to people that cause pain and misery. There are people getting gas for peaceful protest. Nobody's looking. You have a president, and I'm going to say this, and I hope I'm wrong, brothers and sisters, but America's police force is being militarized. And the thing about the military, you're not going in to ascertain or have rational thoughts. You're in to employ policy. And it gets away from your own independent thought, your own independent processes. It is to suppress. That's what militaries do. They come in to suppress. Once it's suppressed, then you build on the suppression. We are missing the boat on that. The message to the black man and those who claim to love black people, if you love black people, in the most beautiful and most meaningful of terms, hug those black people and say, you need to get to work. When you need me, I'll be over here. But right now, your crew needs to get to work. And if it's not right, you need to be able to say, as a lover of black people, I'm concerned over here. You can't fix the problem for him. I'm in agreement with Malcolm X. When they asked how about his organization, he told white people, say, listen, you can help us, but you can't join us because our house isn't straight. This is not to be any or mean spirited or nothing, but I am looking at a situation. You see, Brother George Floyd has returned to the Lord. He's returned to his mom. The work is still here. And we can rally all we want to. And you're going to go to these funerals. But there's the thing about funerals and things about rallies. The thing is, all rallies and all funerals end at some point in time. Body goes in the ground, and if it's a rally, you know what? Somebody sweeps it up, and the next day it just looks like a regular old street. The work, if you will, is that we have to unplug in some regards this thinking that just because the people who have oppressed us for so many years all of a sudden are giving us attention that everything is okay. If you really want to know about oppression, ask somebody over 75, 76, maybe 80. And they're going to give you some horrific stories if they were Black. And they're going to tell you about a despondent feeling, a vague feeling that they lived with their whole lives because they knew that there were no laws to protect them, not as citizens, but just as basic human beings. And then, my mother told me all the time there was a George Floyd almost every week in her town because it was a wild, wild west. And just because, brothers and sisters, we caught these people on camera, remember what you didn't see on camera. No one had the moral courage to run up to that cop and knock him off that man. Nobody. And there's no blame on them. It's just that's the mentality that we deal with. Now, if I can tell you that Elijah Muhammad in Message to the Blackman had to mention a situation that happened in Los Angeles where the police ran into a masjid and they shot unarmed Nation of Islam man, killing one and paralyzing another with little or no repercussions, I'm telling you now that it's a problem. And we should not get out of pocket about what we're seeing. We need to be a lot more astute. Our communication needs to be better. We need to be more networked. We need to be trying to figure out how to pass laws, remove laws, and develop policy ahead of the problem. Ahead of the problem. There's a quote that says, talent is being able to hit the target no one else can hit. Genius is being able to hit the target no one else can see. We need to be on the genius side because oppression does not think that way. We need to be on the genius side. We need to be able to see targets no one else is seeing, the language that nobody else is talking, the sound no one else is hearing, and build on that. Build on it. I don't know, and I don't have all the answers. I have some answers. Maybe we could talk about it another time. But my point of saying this is when the business of trauma or the packaging of trauma ends, and this has nothing to do with Mr. George Floyd. It doesn't really have anything to do with his family either. They just assume probably lay him to rest and mourn as a family. But it's the pageantry of all those people who have their own unresolved feelings attaching to it. So George Floyd reminds us of somebody else. He reminds us of Ahmaud Arbery or Sandra Bland or Eric Gardner or Mike Brown, and all of those murders are unresolved. And we're looking for justice, but we're looking at the wrong people. Justice, brothers and sisters, will not be found with the oppressors of these four cops. Justice will begin and end with us and creating a different paradigm where people go, you know what? Maybe I don't want to go over and mess with that group of people. Maybe there are repercussions that I don't want to have to deal with. So maybe I'm going to stay over on my side of town. Maybe the laws I'm trying to put over there, they don't work with these people. And even if they do put the laws out, you have to be able to exist and perform above the law. Above and beyond the law, because what we have now is just the breaking of the law, the imposition of the law, the execution of the law. We have to be above the law in our own thinking and how we treat one another, how we build community. Because the biggest thing that's going to come out of this is how do we reframe narrative on building community? It's tough to build community around trauma. It's tough to build immunity around depression. Let me tell y'all something. There was a man on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee, was killed with an assassin's bullet. The whole world rioted with Martin Luther King. They rioted. But question, did racism end? Did equality for black people happen? No. We're still fighting the same things right now. The Nation of Islam and Islam are very, very important, but let's face facts, folks. What are we looking at? We're looking at the fact that these things have not necessarily changed, they just metastasized. And we have to be a lot more careful with our strategies and trying to find different things to help move the crowd, if you will, to develop new strategies. I want to engage the genius gene in our community. And for all the people who love black people, I want you to engage your genius genes and let's have conversations on that. Okay, this is somebody, I think this is a joke here. Velcro, what a ripoff. What question do you have, brother? We only have a little bit of time, man. So if you have a question, I appreciate it. Okay. Let's see here. Sister, for too long, cause been driven with focus. Looking. Yes, I agree. Yes, okay. I'm not sure, brother. I mean, hell is always mentioned all over. You know, I'm not a student of the Bible, so I don't want to mislead you and tell you something. But maybe for the next time, maybe we'll all take a look. But for right now, that's not the conversation. We're talking about, like I said, message to the black man and those who claim to love black people. But I'm actually going to look that part of the book up, man. I'm going to find. Well, hell is always a destination, so we'll see. But listen, everybody, this has been really just a little bit more subdued than yesterday. I actually like it where we can talk. And for those that saw the show yesterday, I did want to take a little bit of emotion out of it because I feel like, we need to talk. This is a very emotional time. And I want to move away from the trauma. I want to hear George Floyd celebrated. That's what I want to do. I want to hear him celebrated. I want to hear about how he's a great father. I want to hear about how he was a great citizen, not a victim. Because I think that whole thing of victim creates this thing where he's very one-dimensional. And he's one-dimensional because it ties into a wrong instead of discussing this man's rights. So I'm going to get out of here. And I appreciate you hanging with me. This is one of those things where I really had to think through my feelings. I had to think through the things I'm actually seeing and perceiving. And I also have to look through my feelings in regards to how do we move forward. Personally, how do I move forward? Because I'm still a black man in society, and I live with the fact that tomorrow I may not be a black man in society. I might be gone. But I'm not the only one. I mean, see, that's the thinking. God could take any one of us, right? God can take any one of us. So with that being said, let's open the dialogue. Let's open our minds a little bit and try and find that balance, if you will. Whereby, yes, there's trauma, yes, there's sadness, but there's has to be something that balances on the other side, which is productivity, solutions that lead to happiness, that lead to mental wellness, that lead to spiritual growth. And I'm going to ask everybody, you know what, for all its work, for all the conversations and all the ideas about workshops, live streams, and all that. I'm just going to ask people to do what folks used to do back in the day, something simple. Pray for me.